Today with a good friend, somebody I have drafted countless best ball teams with on live streams over the years. Football Guys own James Brimacombe. James, thanks for joining today. I know we've gotten kind of weird on some of these drafts in the past. I think today we might keep it a little bit more straight edge, but how are you doing this morning?
I'm good. Yeah, just like old times, like you said. Yeah, I always look forward to our weekly kind of drafts and kind of changing it up. And you never knew what was going to happen.
Yeah. For anyone unfamiliar, James and I, we used to do a show where we would put out a poll asking how we should draft a team. And then we would kind of paint ourselves into a corner a lot of the times and try to get out of it. But it was really fun. It would kind of force us to get out of our comfort zone. We'd say, how do you want us to draft a team today? Our audience would tell us that they wanted us to draft zero RB, zero wide receiver, hero RB, whatever it was. And then we would have to adhere to that. We did a few as well, if you remember, James, where we would do nothing but wide receivers and running backs for the first 12 picks, and then just kind of closing out the draft with quarterbacks and wide receivers. You are, in my opinion, one of the sharpest minds in best ball. You're obviously a volume drafter. You do a lot of drafts out in these streets, and you also just kind of bring a new philosophy to mock drafting and best ball drafting. So really excited to see where we go today. As always, we're going to hop in this Best Ball Mania draft. $15 million in prizes, $1.5 million to first place. If you're watching along, feel free to hop in and join with us. Let's see. Still got quite a few waiting in queue here, so it'll be a while before this one fills. But James, kind of talk me through your strategy this year. Is there anything that you are noticing, any big inefficiencies, anything that you're trying to do specifically, or are you still kind of feeling out the board a little bit?
Yeah, I usually wait till about June before I settle in on kind of like what I like, what I don't like. But I'm just kind of hand picking like what values I like right now, kind of what constructions I like. Just kind of like tier based, kind of where different positions fall, where I'm getting the best value, things like that. But I have noticed a lot. People are a lot sharper. It's these 18 round draft rooms are pretty tough. Like a lot. Every time I'm done a draft, there's always like 6 or 7 teams that any of those teams could win. So yeah, I think the competition stepped up. I think this tournament is great. It's more leveled out up top, which I think people
I
aren't
love
going to go
that. Yeah.
broke. Yeah, they're not going to go broke playing basketball anymore. You can max this, and you still have a chance to kind of make a little bit of money. So I love it.
So, yeah, you talked about it. Drafters are getting sharper, and I feel like that's kind of a blessing and a curse. Because something I've noticed this year is it's much easier to get the stacks that you want. I don't know if you've kind of noticed the same thing, but it seems like everybody is so kind of zeroed in on getting their stacks that you're not worried about getting sniped quite as much as you used to. Is that something that you feel like you've noticed? It almost feels like ADP kind of shapes up for the stacks to kind of fall into your lap.
Yeah, that is a good point. I have noticed that a lot. I feel like it's more like drafting in for playoff NFL basketball a little bit,
Yeah.
where everything just feels like it's lining up but then you think it's you only your team, and then you look at the board and you're like, oh, everybody's doing the same thing. So yeah, I feel like it's everyone's staying in their lane more. I usually welcome the sniping because I feel like that gives you a little more uniqueness and makes you think, keeps you on your toes more. I think you become a better drafter when those circumstances come up. So I like to
And I
change
think
it up.
something I've learned from you and something that I like to do is, don't be afraid to reach for those stacks that can kind of set you apart. Everyone adheres so closely to ADP. I find myself a lot when I'm at like the 4 or 5 turn, willing to reach for Lamar Jackson and Mark Andrews to get that stack, knowing that a lot of people aren't going to have it because they'd
Mhm.
rather wait for it to fall into their lap, maybe get it one in every 100 builds or something like that. And it's something I'm willing to reach for a little bit because I have stronger convictions on Lamar Jackson and Mark Andrews, knowing that if that does hit, I will have a pretty big differentiation against the field. But it looks like we started off here at 107. I got to be honest, 107 is not my favorite spot to pick from. I feel like there's a pretty big tier fall off after 106. I really like when I'm able to get one of those top 6 guys, ending up with either Justin Jefferson or Amon St. Brown. When you're at 107, are you kind of just adhering to ADP, typically going with Bijan Robinson if one of those receivers don't fall, or what are you typically doing from this 107 spot?
I actually like the 105 to 108 because there's sometimes you'll get like a Amon-Ra fall or even a Justin Jefferson, and like those are the
Yeah.
drafts I feel like the best about. So I think the top 8 picks I really enjoy. Like I have a hard time
If Amon or
at
Jefferson falls to 107, I'm pretty happy about that, but I don't see it all too often.
yeah, but even Bijan or Hall I'm fine with too. Because I think the receivers are strong enough in the next few rounds to make up for that. Um,
So I'll kind of ask the same question I asked just about everybody on this show, like Bijan Robinson, Brees Hall, going back to back. Obviously, Bijan is preferred in ADP. Are you just going to stick with ADP here? Or, like personally, I like Brees Hall more than Bijan, but I know that if I make that decision to take Brees ahead of Bijan, then I'm going to end up with no Bijan. And if Brees gets hurt or something, it just kind of completely tanks my whole season. So I'm okay just kind of drafting with the ADP here. What are your thoughts?
I actually think Brees Hall might be a better pick too, just for the fact that like Bijan has more Algier behind him. You got Cousins coming
Mhm.
in there. Maybe it's going to be a higher passing game, but they're still going to use Algier a lot. Like Brees, like I don't know, like the volume that he was getting some of those
Well, hey,
games. Yeah, see,
look at
this is
that.
why I like this spot.
Yeah, and this is wonderful. I mean, again, I adhere to ADP, but I prefer Amon St. Brown ahead of Bijan. Prefer him ahead of Justin Jefferson. For me, he's kind of like the 5A behind Jamar Chase. So getting him at 107, I think, is wonderful. I'm happy the way that worked out. But sorry, if you want to keep going on Brees
No,
here.
no. I think, yeah, I don't think you can go wrong with either one. So I don't think either one are a bad pick. I think they're legitimate first round picks, both of them. And I think I mean, if you're drafting 100 or whatever teams, you're going to get both probably. And I would try to equal my exposure to both. Like, I don't need to be 20% Brees and
Right.
3% Bijan, So I'd probably just go 10 and 10% on each.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm in the same exact boat here. Now with this next pick, 18, it feels like you normally kind of fall into one of these wide receivers: Brandon Ayuk, Chris Olave, Devontae Adams, Debo Samuel, Nico Collins. I know for me, the only guy that jumps out as a potential landmine, the guy that I'm really trying to avoid, is Devontae Adams, and I don't know how you feel about that, but coming off of a down year, added target competition as well. We don't know exactly what this Raiders offense is going to look like. I'm a little bit concerned with Adams. I'm okay with all of the rest, whether it's Ayuk, Olave, Debo, or Nico. Do you have any strong takes on this group of receivers right here? Well, look at that. Devontae Adams off the board at 201. Wow.
Or yeah, like I like all these guys. I usually go with breaking my ties. I go with age, so I'm going to go with the younger guys here over Adams. I don't think Adams is set up that bad though. I just feel like there's not a lot of talent on that team, and he is the most talented player. If they are a competitive team, even like a 500 team, like I think it's going to be because of him. So like I'm not against it, but I probably would go like Olave. I'd go London. I'd go Ayuk. Probably Debo over him too. Yeah.
So Ayuk off the board here. This is a tough one for me because I've seen Jonathan Taylor falling a lot. I typically don't like to draft running backs this early, but I'm okay taking Taylor when he slides below ADP. How do you feel here, though? Jonathan Taylor, Chris Olave, Debo Samuel, Nico Collins. Who are you going with?
I like Olave a lot. He's usually my second round pick. I know people are kind of, like the touchdowns are lacking, right? Like 4 and 5 the last couple of years. Derek Carr at QB, but I don't know. I'm just going to take my chances, especially when
Yeah,
you get Amon-Ra as your wide receiver one. So
right.
Olave's great wide receiver two with potential to maybe he breaks the year. We don't know.
And last year, we saw a lot of the same stuff that we saw from his rookie season, where he was pulling targets and, doing what we want to see. He was efficient with the targets that he was pulling. I think the biggest hindrance to his ceiling is, of course, Derek Carr right now. And I think a
Mm.
lot of people are kind of concerned about what Derek Carr leading this team is going to look like for the second year in a row. There's really no backup option either. They got Jake Hayner and Spencer Rattler and Taysom Hill behind him on the depth chart. So a pick for Chris Olave is kind of also a bet on Derek Carr. But I will say I'm somebody who has kind of been okay reaching for one of the earlier quarterbacks this year. So getting Olave, even though I'm not crazy about getting Derek Carr, it is nice when you draft Olave, knowing that you can fall on Derek Carr as your QB2 in round 17 or 18 if you end up with an elite quarterback early on.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And I think even with like going Amon-Ra, like Goff is not like a high pick. So getting these
Yeah.
star wide receivers, but their QBs are still competent. They have potential to be like a top 10, 15 QB, but the value on them, you don't have to pay up. So I like setting up like with all these kind of guys, breaking ties as well. Like even Mike Evans, like you can get Baker
Yep.
so cheap. Like going over Diggs to get Stroud is just so expensive. So you miss on that
Mhm.
stack. So sometimes I break ties that way as well. So
And that Tampa Bay stack, I've done a lot where I've gone with Evans, Godwin. And if you get both of those wide receivers, at that point, you can usually get Baker 2 or 3 rounds after his ADP because you've just taken everything or, nobody wants to take Baker without the stack. So I've got quite a
mhm.
few Baker, Evans, Godwin stacks. Those are fun to have. Now, looking ahead here, Kyron Williams is a guy that I've seen sliding into the middle of the third round, especially now with the foot injury popping up, concerns about Blake Corum. I've talked a lot about being kind of somebody who is not very much in on Kyron Williams, but man, when he's fallen to me at 306, 307, 308, that's one of the easiest smashes for me. But who would you be looking at with these next picks? Kyron Williams, Mike Evans, Michael Pittman, Derrick Henry. Who jumps out to you here?
I'm a big fan of Evans, Pittman, and Cooper Cup. Like I think all three of those are great here. I I don't know. I've always been a wide receiver guy, but or
Oh,
a
I get
running
it.
back.
Yeah, I was gonna say you used to go running back heavy, but I think the data is telling us that. I mean, we've been there before, where if you don't get these wide receivers early,
Yeah,
you are just screwed, and you're really painting yourself into a corner. So I'd be okay with Kyron Williams here, but I think Mike Evans and Mike Pittman are good as well. Who do you want to go with?
I think Mike Evans is the pick here. Yeah, I think he's a legit second round pick. So get him in the third. That's nice.
So and now, like I said, we're set up for 3 cheap stacks. Jared Goff, Derek Carr, Baker Mayfield. These are all guys that we're gonna be able to get super, super late, which is
Mhm.
always nice to have that kind of flexibility later in the drafts. There, Kyron Williams goes off the board at 308. How far do you think Kyron Williams falls now? I feel like this is a huge buy window with the reports about him not practicing in OTAs because of the foot injury. Do you think he starts to creep back up a little bit, or do you think this is just kind of where we're going to see him going at this sort of 3-4 turn here?
I mean, I think we're in May, so it's crazy to draw that conclusions already. So yeah, he probably should be a second round, uh, second, third turn pick, in my opinion. But yeah, if you want to buy him now, now's a great time. I can't see him going the
And
fourth round.
for the record, I have no qualms with Mike Evans. I think that, Mike Evans getting the extension, Baker Mayfield getting the extension shows us how the Bucks feel about this duo right here. We're not telling you anything you don't already know, but Mike Evans just 1,000-yard machine basically every single year. I think both of those guys are very mispriced. When you look at the other players going in that area, Mike Evans and Kyron Williams both feel like they should be going a full round earlier. Now, this is pretty standard for what you see in a best ball mania starting with 3 wide receivers: Amon St. Brown, Chris Olave, and Mike Evans. Next pick coming up here in about 6 picks. Really, the only running back that I'd be interested in here is Derrick Henry if he somehow slides to us. Travis Etienne potentially. I think Josh Jacobs is just a little bit too expensive. Not crazy about where he's going. ETN just goes off the board here. Travis Kelsey is another value that I really like right now. I think he's a little bit mispriced as well. But also, these wide receivers, they thin out quickly. And Tank Dell and T. Higgins are 2 wide receivers that I am A-OK taking as well. So top 4 on the board right there: Derrick Henry, Travis Kelsey, Tank Dell, T. Higgins. I like all 4 of those. Also like Lamar Jackson, also like Trey McBride. I feel like this is a pretty flush area in the draft. Who are you typically looking for with this next pick?
Um, so I've been off Tank Dell a little bit. I know everyone
All
loves
right.
him, but I'm just like there's 3 guys there now and battling the injury. So I feel like I don't know. I don't really love his ADP. I kind of like Higgins more. I like Pacheco a lot here. I like Kelsey. Um, those are kind of I would probably go. And I like Amari Cooper. Like he's a great value too. Like he's going too far down the board.
Well, we're on the clock
Um,
now. So between these guys, T. Higgins, Isaiah
I'd probably
Pacheco,
go
Travis Kelsey.
Higgins.
Yeah, that's where I'm
If you
at
want to
too.
go Kelsey too, if you want to go Kelsey, I'm fine with that too because I think you can
You
set
make the
up
choice. Higgins or Kelsey. Who do you like?
I'd probably go Higgins and then hope we get. Yeah, that's probably how I'd go.
Cool. And yeah, I like Higgins as well. I mean, we've seen this guy show wide receiver one potential at times. I feel like right now we're getting a lot of the guys that I've talked about is being discounted this year for reasons I don't really understand. Well, I do understand with Higgins. If you drafted him last year, what was it, week one? He had like, was it 8 targets or 10 targets or something? And he didn't catch a single pass. And then he was injured. And then he never really got on the same page with Jake Browning. So I think it's a lot like the Tony Pollard thesis I have, where he was drafted highly last year and burned a lot of people, and people just don't want to go back to the well. But T. Higgins is still what, just 23 years old, and he's on a high-powered offense. And then also something that doesn't get talked about a lot is the contingent upside. Like, let's say Jamar Chase goes down with an injury, then all of a sudden we're looking at T. Higgins as a weekly top 5, top 8 receiver. So I really have been drafting quite a bit of T. Higgins this year.
Yeah, and I think it also sets up with the Burrow kind of cheaper. Like Burrow's not that expensive, and then you got Zach Moss and Chase Brown. Where do we really know like how much volume those running backs are getting? So it could be like even a healthy Burrow entering the year with Higgins and Chase. Like
Yeah.
we could see something special there. Yeah, just a shout out to Pomeranian is live, $3 entry, 50 max if anyone wants
All
that.
right.
Just got
Got
notified.
$150 sitting in your account right now. Go ahead, max enter it. I know what I'll be doing for the next couple of weeks. Joe Mixon is the guy that really jumps out to me here. I think he's another guy that is very mispriced. We'd have to reach for him a few spots, but Patrick Mahomes still on the board. James White and or James Cook and Rashad White. Anthony Richardson still on the board. I know we were kind of torn between Evans and Pittman. I think had we gone Pittman, Anthony Richardson would be the easy choice here. But here we are in just a few picks: Mahomes, Cook, White, Richardson, McLaurin, Mixon, Jayden Reed, Xavier Worthy, Marquise Brown. Who jumps out to you here?
I think McLaurin was probably how I'd go here. So
All
yeah,
right.
and I have like an idea. Maybe we just go 6 receivers and build out the rest of our team. Like you could go
Yeah.
7, 8 running backs. So we have 3 QBs, 3 tight ends, or something like. It's just something weird, just something different.
Now, this also opens up drafting McLaurin here, sets me up for, or sets us up for Jayden Daniels, who has been my favorite pick in best ball so far this year.
Mhm.
So he's a guy at this point, we didn't get one of the quote unquote elite quarterbacks. They are all off the board at this point. But I think Jayden Daniels falls into that same elite bucket given his potential ceiling. And then combining that with the Terry McLaurin stack, I'm not typically one to reach for quarterbacks, but in a situation like this, without having a quarterback going into round 6, having Terry McLaurin, I'd be willing to reach half a round or so to get Jayden Daniels on this roster.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great upside tournament play. So I think that's what you're looking for. I mean, who else we got? Carr and Goff, like those might not have the biggest upside, but
And
getting
and Baker.
Jaden Daniels, yeah, and Baker. I mean, Burrow and Jaden Daniels would be ideal for this one.
Right. And I believe Burrow's already gone. Let me scroll down here. Oh, Joe, nope, Burrow's still on the board. So yeah, we do have that. I think Burrow and Daniels would be great, but even Baker, I feel like Baker, if you look at his projection, I don't think it's all that different from Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
I think you're obviously getting a little bit more upside with Burrow, but the floor and the safety with Baker is pretty desirable for where you're getting him in drafts. So here we are up in 6 more picks. Joe Mixon is still on the board, and I am just flabbergasted at that. I think that when you compare him to some of the guys that went earlier, Josh Jacobs and Travis Etienne, Joe Mixon projects pretty similarly, and I think he's just the kind of the forgotten guy in drafts this year. So I would be happy taking Joe Burrow if he falls. But you also talked about getting some of these receivers as well. Did Marquise Brown? Yeah, Marquise Brown already went off the board,
Yeah,
but
they already
Jayden
went.
Reed, Xavier Worthy, Calvin Ridley, Roma Dunze. It's funny. Xavier Worthy technically has a higher ADP than Marquise Brown, but I've seen Marquise Brown go ahead of Xavier Worthy in the last 5 or 6 drafts that I've done now. So I'm expecting that we'll see that flip pretty soon. But which
Mhm.
receiver do you like here? I like Xavier Worthy for the upside. Calvin Ridley isn't a guy that I'm crazy about, but at this cost, I'm okay taking him. And then Alvin Kamara is another guy that I think, if he's healthy, kind of works with what we already have with Olave, kind of just investing even more into the Saints offense. And Calvin Ridley, I mean, he's been a point scoring machine with Derek
Ridley,
Carr.
Ridley just yeah. Yeah, honestly, right here, like what the names we see on this board, I don't really like any of them. I'm gonna be honest. Like the one I'll say in a minute if it doesn't get picked. I mean, Godwin would have been cool with Evans, but I think we're good at 5 receivers right now. We don't have to be cornered in and take another one right here. But I was gonna say Kittle was my favorite there.
I like Kittle a lot. I'll just say
But
Alvin Kamara in half
I'd
PPR
probably
last
go.
year was per game RB5.
Yeah. I mean, you could do Jayden Reed here as your wide receiver 6, or you could do like Montgomery as your first running back.
Let's
I'm
go.
not a
Let's
fan.
go with Jayden Reed. I think that's a good value fall. We're getting a full round below ADP, and then again, this just opens us up for yet another late round
Yeah.
quarterback where Jordan Love projects very, very well, and we can get him
Yeah.
for cheap. And then if we really want to invest heavier into that Green Bay offense, we can get Dontavian Wicks for cheap. We can, get other guys as well. So maybe we add one more late round wide receiver here, but that's a wide receiver room right there, man. That's a stable of good wide receivers. Amondre St. Brown, Chris Olave, Mike Evans, T. Higgins, Terry McLaurin, and Jayden Reed. Every single quarterback that we would want to tie to one of these wide receivers is still on the board as well. So
Yeah.
really gives us a lot of flexibility later in this draft.
No, I think that's great because I think a lot of the names at running back, I didn't love them all. And then I think I don't know. Yeah, it just opens you up to so much flexibility here, like you said at QB. So you don't have to be cornered into who you have to star and take right away. So you can kind of chance it a little bit.
So when you have this current wide receiver room, are you adding a wide receiver 7, or are you not even thinking about another wide receiver here?
So I think like I don't know. I don't really worry about buys too much, but you only have Olave and T that share a bye week,
Yeah.
right? So
Mhm.
so even if like say one of these guys gets injured out for the year, you still got 5, and then the bye week you'd still have 4. So I think you're safe to if you just want to roll a 6, you're okay. Like I don't think it's a strategy a lot of people do, but it's one that I've tried a lot more because I know people love the receivers, but they take them so early. They'll take like 5, 6 like this, and then they'll add on 3 more. Like I don't see the point of adding 3 more on. Like you're already
Yeah, I think
investing way too much.
like I said, I think maybe adding one more if you wanted to. Just, if we do end up with Burrow or, if we end up with Jordan Love and we want to add, Yoshi in round 18, or if we want to add
Mhm.
Dontavian Wicks, I'm not crazy or I'm not, very against that. But yeah, I think 6 is probably good here. I think the main target for us with this next pick, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but if Joe Burrow slides to us, we'd be getting him a little bit below ADP, and that does work with T. Higgins that we already have there. I think Burrow's probably the preferred pick here coming up in round 7.
I mean, yes and no, because I think Kyler's probably a better pick, to be honest. And then I know he wouldn't be stacked right now, but maybe you get a Connor or Trey Benson, stack a running
Yeah.
back QB there, or like Jordan Love's. Is he still on the board? Or did he already go? Like he might be a better upside pick than Burrow too.
Yeah, we could
So I
probably get
don't.
Love with our next pick would be my guess. Love's ADP is 90, and our next pick after this is 90.
Mhm.
So maybe the guy who drafted Christian Watson's still on the board too. So we can, there's a good chance that Love makes it to us with the next pick. I'm with you that in a vacuum, I prefer Kyler ahead of Burrow. We're on the clock
Mhm.
right now. So Joe Burrow, Aaron Jones, Ramondre Stevenson, Kyler Murray. Do you want to go with Kyler ahead of Burrow?
Probably not. No, because we're open. So I'd go probably Aaron Jones or Ramondre. And
All
then
right.
at least we're getting. I probably Ramondre. I'd go maybe over Aaron Jones.
Yeah. No, Ramondre is another guy that I have been out on for the last couple of years, but he is so cheap right now that I
Mhm.
find myself in on Ramondre. So I like that. If he can stay healthy, I'm not very threatened by Antonio Gibson. I think Ramondre is still going to have the majority of the workload there. So like we're getting Ramondre as a round 7 RB1.
Yeah, and that's more like rookie QB coming. The Patriots are a mess. They don't have a lot of weapons. Like he is the only probably talented player on that whole offense. So I feel like he's the sneaky guy this year that people aren't really. I don't know. He's in a weird range too at ADP. So
And
I
again, it's
like
the
him.
recency bias thing. I think it's as simple as that. He burned a lot of people last year when he was on the field. He wasn't very effective, and then he dealt with injuries as well. And people were drafting him in the second, third round. So now they're out this year. That is, in my opinion, I think like the biggest edge you can get in fantasy football is drafting the players that burned people the year before when they're good and talented players. And that's why I've been kind of touting Tony Pollard all year, because he burned a lot of people last year. And now you can get him in round 8, and he still is a good, talented player. So here we are coming up again in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 picks. We've got Burrow queued up. We've got Kyler Murray queued up. Love Zamir White, so I'll throw him in the queue as well. Najee Harris, I know you're a Najee Harris guy, so we'll throw him in the queue. And Jonathan Brooks is another guy that I like, especially, we've already kind of got the safety with Ramondre Stevenson. Jonathan Brooks can be that kind of late season hammer that we like. Zamir White goes off the board. Kyler Murray goes off the board. But we are potentially looking at getting Joe Burrow here at pick 90 over a full round below ADP. That would be the easy pick if he falls to us, right?
I think this might be the Chase drafter, isn't it? Right here, or is that the one on the clock?
Yeah, he went with Zach Moss though instead.
Or maybe it was Kyler. That was Chase. I can't remember. Actually, I don't know. Yeah, I think it's Burrow or Jordan Love here. That's the way I play this. The reason I say that too, because I actually really like getting 2 QBs, but I want 2 good QBs on 2 good teams. so
and that go Burrow just for the sake of ADP. I mean, we're getting 15 spots below ADP here, and he works with our Higgins stack. So that I was okay with taking Burrow with our last pick, and we waited it out and got really lucky getting him, 15 rounds below ADP there. Our next pick is coming up. And again, Jordan Love is another one of those players where if you get Jayden Reed, Jordan Love could end up falling. So our next pick is at 103. We might even luck into getting Jordan Love around below ADP at this point too.
Yeah, and if we don't, that's fine. Get like Jayden Daniels, or there's still options there. Yeah, I think the rest of our team. Well, I like going to the 2 QBs and even sometimes the 2 tight ends. Like if I can get them before like round 12, that just frees you up so much. Like we're already locked in at receiver. If you get that other QB, you're locked in at QB. So then you're only using
hammer running backs and tight ends.
You're only using 2 spots at QB and 6 spots at receiver. So you're only using, then you have 10 spots for running back and tight end only. So I don't know. That's a strategy I've been using more this year.
I might go 4 tight ends in that situation, because I feel like this point right here, I like Jake Ferguson. I like David Njoku, the player, but I have some concerns about him. Dallas Goedert is a guy that I find myself drafting occasionally. TJ Hawkinson, we don't even know if he's playing next year. Dalton Schultz, he's kind of a contingent upside guy. So I feel like these next couple of rounds are kind of the tight end dead zone. If somebody falls way below ADP, I'll pick them up. But if I miss out on that top 7, I'm usually okay waiting until later in the draft and just taking any 3, whether it's Hunter Henry, Noah Fant, Chiga Okonkwo, just kind of throwing some at the wall and seeing what'll stick.
I think it's a very valid strategy. Tight end is one that they get dinged up quite a bit too. A lot of people play it pretty. They'll go with 2 tight ends. Time you hit to the playoffs, you're lucky to have a healthy tight end on your roster. Even if you go 4, you might be lucky to have 1 or 2 still come like weeks 15, 16,
So here we are, just a couple of picks away. Jayden Daniels just went off the board, so we're not going to get him, but Jordan Love still available. Like I said, we might be able to get him a full round below ADP, and look at that. I mean, this is the easy choice here, right?
Oh man, I love this. Yeah, you got both of the stacks. You're done at QB. You could be done at receiver, and now it's just like only click the running back right now.
And I can't label this a hero RB build by any means, but this is very much so a 0 running back build. But Ramondre Stevenson, with how mispriced he is right now, is it weird to say that like I could feel a little bit confident with Ramondre Stevenson as an RB1?
I mean, people are loving Gibson, right? Like everyone's like, Gibson's a value, but there's nobody else. There's no depth on that. Like maybe there is another guy there that we haven't talked about, and he's going to look good in camp.
And honestly, with how cheap Gibson is, I know we're not supposed to handcuff in tournaments, but this is a situation where we know they're going to run the ball a lot. Ramondre Stevenson and Gibson, I'm okay taking both of those guys and just kind of locking down the entire Patriots backfield.
Yeah, I actually think there is like a little bit of a cheat code, taking talented running backs on really bad teams. Like even you look like Singletary. Singletary is
Yeah.
probably my highest owned right now. He's just like
Hmm.
he's just going to be a huge volume guy. Nothing's behind him on that depth chart. I mean, people are liking that Tracy kid or whatever, but like, who knows? Is he even maybe he doesn't even make the team? Like it's so early right now.
Hmm.
But
And
I don't
now,
know.
we talked about it a couple of years ago, and I don't know how much your position has kind of changed on this, but are you buying into the week 17 correlation? Because looking at some of the running backs that we'll be wanting to get if we're looking to correlate week 17, Cincinnati plays against Denver, and Jaleel McLaughlin has been one of my favorite late round running
Hmm.
back picks. And then we've also got Green Bay playing against Minnesota, and Ty Chandler should be available up here in a little bit. So if we can get Ty Chandler and Jaleel McLaughlin, first of all, it fits our need at running back, and it also kind of works with some week 17 that we wouldn't have to reach for.
No, no, that's great. Yeah, like I like that a lot. I'm a
And I mean,
huge I like Chandler a lot. Like I'm not buying in
same.
on Aaron Jones very much unless he falls like a full round or even more than that sometimes. So
Yep.
Chandler's always like a running back 5 that I'm taking on my team.
Yeah, so we're up in a couple of picks here, and Javonte Williams is a guy I haven't been crazy about, but man, we're getting him around below ADP, and we get that week 17 correlation with Cincinnati. So I would be okay with Javonte Williams here. I know you're a big Devin Singletary guy, so we could throw Devin Singletary as well. We've also got Brian Robinson, kind of works in with the
I love
Terry
Robinson
McLaurin.
too. Yeah, I think
Yeah,
I think that's Javante Williams. He
yeah.
he's actually a guy like another bad team, and he is the starting running back. I know they have like 4 running backs there now, but I don't know. I'm kind of in on Williams a little bit just because he is
I
falling like to
yeah.
114. That's crazy to me.
I go back and forth on Williams on a near daily basis, because like after his rookie season, we were talking about him as like the dynasty RB2. Like we thought this guy
Hmm.
was going to be fantastic. He pulled what, like a 16% target share or something his rookie year, like led the league in broken tackles, and then suffered that horrific knee injury. And then last year saw a dip in efficiency. We saw him splitting touches with a bunch of other running backs. But what if he comes back this year and he's healthier and he looks more like the rookie season Javonte Williams that looked like one of the best running backs in the league? It still is in that range of outcomes that maybe last year he was just hampered by injuries and we could see him bounce back. Of course, the other fear is that, like you said, there's 4 running backs on the roster and he's in this 4-headed committee. But I think where we're at right now, needing upside with an RB2, Javonte Williams has a ton of upside. So I like that pick.
Yeah, no, yeah. Sometimes you just take what falls to your roster build the way you're going to, and then you get the value on top of that, like that, and then you feel really good, right? But and I know I said this the other day on Twitter, and we said it in the past, like we're gonna get done these drafts, and we look at it, and we're just like, man, that is a beast of a draft. That draft looks so good. I want to tweet this out. But those are always the ones that kind of finish in the middle of the pack too. So.
So we're up in a couple of picks here. Unfortunately, Brian Robinson is off the board. Austin Eckler, though, also kind of works with us getting McLaurin here. So perhaps Eckler has been a guy that I've been crazy about, but we'll throw him in the queue. Dallas Goddard. I know Eagles. I don't know how you feel about Dallas Goddard this year, but we do need a tight end, and Dallas Goddard kind of has that contingent upside. He's off the board.
Hmm.
But we're good on wide receivers, so we're not looking at Jared Goff, but Austin Eckler, Jacoby
I think
Myers,
I
Josh
don't I
Palmer,
don't
TJ
love
Hawkinson.
Eckler, but I think you have to take him here.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. The other guy that I'd entertain would be TJ Hawkinson,
And
with
but
the
Eckler is a bye week 14, so we're gonna have 3 bye week 14 running backs here.
well, that's okay. We're still taking like
But
5 more running backs, so we'll figure that out when we have to. But TJ Hawkinson, man, and again, I've talked about week 17 correlation a few times for anybody watching that doesn't understand. When we're playing in this big tournament, week 17, that's the finals. And what you want to try to do is correlate matchups. So when I say, we're looking at Vikings players because we already have the Green Bay Packers stack, that's basically just anticipating, if there is a shootout in that Green Bay Minnesota game, then we're getting points on the opposing team as well. So just kind of explaining that for anybody new to this tournament drafting here.
so,
Um,
so what's your thoughts on I feel like week 16 is way more important this year. but maybe I'm way off. And I'm not one to really go back and forth too much on those, but I just feel like that would be my focus if I focused more of my attention on that.
Yeah, I mean, getting to the finals is 99% of the battle, right? Like we spend so much time focusing on week 17, but nobody really thinks too much about actually getting to week 17. So I know Todd from PA, I'm sure you're familiar with him. You know, he is big on kind of laying out an entire roadmap to get you to the finals, and that takes a lot. And I will do that occasionally. I'll admit it's hard to host a show and kind of map out multiple playoff weeks at
Mhm.
the same time. But I think that that is a very important thing to do.
Well, I
Let's
know
talk through this.
Green Bay is New Orleans, and who was our other one? That was the big one.
Well, we've already
Cincy,
got that. We've got the Green Bay stack and we've got Chris Olave. So we kind
and
of
then Cincy
stumbled
was
into that on
Cleveland.
accident. Yeah, I don't think we have anybody from Cleveland yet, but um, I don't know who you're looking at here. Blake Corum for me, I feel like is the ideal guy to fit into what we currently have.
Yeah,
Um,
I think you want
just
some
the late
youth
season
here at
upside.
running back.
Yeah, we're it's a little dusty right now, and Zeke is a guy that I like at ADP, but we've already got enough old guys on this team, so I think Blake Corum is the guy that I would really, really, really want here. But man, Jared Goff falling around and a half below. Oh, there Jared Goff goes. So Blake Corum's who I'm looking at. I also like Zeke, also like Zach Charbonnet. This is where I'm usually shredding running backs. Is Corum the pick, or do you like somebody else?
See, I've been fading the Dallas running backs, so I'm just not like fading them, but I just like I don't know who to pick, and I
Yeah,
think it's going to change by like week 5 of the NFL season. Like it's somebody different. I
yeah.
probably like Charbonnet or Corum, so I'm good with Corum.
Let's go with Corum just because we're getting him well below ADP.
Hmm.
Um, and that's weird to see because we saw Kyron Williams fall so far in this draft, and then we also saw Blake Corum fall in the draft as well. I think a lot of times it just comes down to that ambiguity, like where people don't have a clear read on the backfield, so they just kind of fade everybody. And I think that's when you can get some really, really good values. I don't know if you saw the report that came out a couple of days ago where they said they're working on Blake Corum's pass catching. They said they want him, in the event of an injury to Kyron Williams, they don't want him to just be that early down guy. They want him to be a 3 down back. So that's what I like about Blake Corum season wide or season long. It's really hard to project him for much. But if Kyron Williams gets injured, which he has battled injuries his entire career, we're looking at Blake Corum as like a top 5 weekly running back.
I mean, you've seen what Sean McVay does there, and it's
Yep.
just like he doesn't care. He just wants to plug a guy in and just run him, run him, run him. The next year it's somebody different. The next year it's someone different. So yeah,
Yep.
take your shots for sure.
So, Corum's another guy that I think should probably be going a couple of rounds higher just because, like I said, there's almost no projectable volume, but the contingent upside arguably just as high as anybody else's. And Zach Charbonnet is kind of the same thing. It's hard to project him for much, but if Kenneth Walker goes down, Zach Charbonnet is probably a top 5, top 8, top 10 weekly guy. He unfortunately went off the board. But this is kind of the point where we're at now. None of these guys at this point in the
I,
draft have projectable volume. We're just kind of
I love
swinging for the
Kendra
fences.
Miller, and Kendra Miller just
Yes.
got picked. He was like definitely a guy that should be in the top 10 rounds in my opinion.
He
I'm
was
not
hurt last
on
year.
I'm
Was that
not on
tip? He
Kamara at
was hurt.
all.
All right.
Kamara, I think, is done.
Really?
Yeah, I think he's done.
I mean, I was a huge Kendra Miller fan. He was hurt pretty much all of the preseason, never really got up to speed, but we saw him, was it week 18, week 17 or 18? It was like the last week of the year. He got a good workload and he looked great in that role. So I'm okay going there. 2 picks away. I know you said earlier you like Ty Chandler and he also fits in with the Green Bay Packers stack that we have. So I'll throw him in the queue. But we've
I
also
like.
got Marshawn Lloyd. We've
I
also
think
got Rico
Lloyd's the
Dowdle.
pick with Love.
Yeah, that's a good point too. Yeah, we could just keep stacking it up on
Yeah, especially the
the Green
late
Bay
season too.
offense.
You get Corum and Lloyd for the late season stuff.
And that
Um,
is a perfect balance for Ramondre Stevenson, Javonte Williams, and Austin Eckler, who are kind of the old guys that'll help us out early in the year. And then we
mhm.
hope that Corum and Lloyd can kind of be the late season guys. Now, James, I'm sure you're aware, and maybe the viewers aren't because we haven't scrolled down in a while. We have no tight ends.
Yeah. So the thing is, we have Green Bay and Cincinnati, who are Green Bay's tight ends.
Yep, I knew
And
you were gonna say it.
they have
Musgrave already
2.
was drafted, but we've got yeah, talk to us.
And even you have Gasecki if you really want to go. And I'm actually thinking this is more of a 2-6-6-4 build if you want to do it, or if you want to do 2-6-7-3, that's fine too. But that's how I'd play it. I wouldn't even look at tight end till the last 4 picks.
Yeah, and I'm okay with that. I mean, we look. Let's go ahead and pull it up here. I mean, Cade Otton would work if we wanted to do that because we've already got Mike Evans here. Cade Otton's been a guy that I've liked. I find myself drafting him. Juwan Johnson would also work with what we have, but Fant, Jonnu, Chig, Tucker Kraft, Mike Gesicki, even Greg Dulcich. If we want to go back to the Greg Dulcich, well, we can get him later as well. So we've got a lot of options for late round tight ends here.
Yeah.
I think this is still the area that we kind of keep focusing on running backs. We've got 14, 15, 16, 17, 5 picks left. So what we'll probably do here is 2 more running backs and then 3 tight ends, correct?
That sounds good to me.
So we're up in a few picks here, and Ty Chandler still on the board. Would love if Ty Chandler somehow falls into our lap. We see a lot of people here that, I think these next 2 have 7 and 6 wide receivers, so they might be looking to wide receiver or to running back. We see a lot of people right now trying to fill in their wide receiver 6, wide receiver 7, wide receiver 8 spots, and we're already locked in on wide receiver, so we're not even thinking about that. Ty Chandler goes off the board.
Well,
So
Rico is an awesome pick here.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, we're getting him 20 picks below ADP.
Look at all our running backs; they're all past ADP.
Yeah, and I mean that's kind of this is a fun way to build a draft where you just get all of your wide receivers early, and then you don't really have to make a lot of decisions. You just kind of hang out, and whatever running backs fall into your lap below ADP, you take. And yeah, you look at it. We got we got Stevenson at ADP, but I think that he's mispriced, so I'm okay with that. Javonte Williams, we got him a full round below ADP. Austin Eckler, we got him almost over a full round below ADP. Blake Corum over a full round below ADP. Marshawn Lloyd almost a round below ADP, and then 2 rounds below ADP for Dowdle. So we're just kind of letting the drafters make the decision for us here. I'm going to throw Antonio Gibson and Jaleel McLaughlin in the queue. I'll throw Cade Otton in the queue as well.
You got to do Hunter Johnson. And Juwan, yeah.
Yeah.
I think likely is a good pick here on this build, especially you're going 3 or 4 tight ends because
he's basically a tight end handcuff. I mean, I love Isaiah Likely. You're getting, like, if Mark Andrews goes down, you've got a plug-and-play weekly tight end 1.
Yeah. Yep.
So here we are in a few picks. Jaleel McLaughlin, man. Talk to me about Jaleel McLaughlin. Well, we've already got Javonte Williams, so maybe we don't want to double dip on the Denver backfield, but Jaleel McLaughlin's a guy that I've really liked this year, but because we took Javonte, I'm okay passing on him. Is Cade Otton maybe the preferred guy here? We need a tight end. He kind of works with.
I think Otton or Juwan, just because you're getting a starting tight end.
Yeah, and you got to remember we've got.
Mike I don't know if McLaughlin's there, you can go for it, man. I think
he's there, and we're getting him around under ADP.
Yeah, let's do it, and then 3 tight ends.
All right,
so cool. We're only punting tight end.
Yeah, and my guess is that one of these 2, Cade Otton or Juwan Johnson, will probably fall to us with our next pick. I know you like Noah Fant, so I'll throw him in the queue for the brand.
I'd probably put Tucker Kraft
first. Ahead of Fant. Yeah, I'm with you. Mike Gesicki, we talked about him. Greg Dulcich, we could throw him in as well. Hopefully we don't have to get further down than that, but Zach Ertz is a guy that I don't hate. I like Ben Sinnott, but Zach Ertz, I think he's just kind of the forgotten guy this year. As much as I am okay paying up for Sinnott, when I take this, just punting tight end approach, I'm okay taking Zach Ertz in round 18 if a lot of the other guys that I like have gone off the board. But any other late round tight ends that you've been eyeballing?
Yeah, I wouldn't ruin any drafts by taking Zach Ertz at the end. I would. I think Sanders is a better pick than that. Just picks if you're doing 3 tight ends, just pick somebody that late season maybe will do something. I think Jonnu, Chig are good here too.
Yeah, I'm trying to get off of Chig a little bit just because I've drafted so much of him already, because I do a lot of this as well where I just kind of punt tight end, wait till the very end, and Chig's always sitting there in round 18, and we know that he's got the upside. So this is kind of me selfishly saying that I've been trying to get out on Chig just because I'm already at like 24% Chig and I don't want to keep seeing that go up.
Yeah,
But
that is
yeah,
true.
Juwan Johnson and Tucker Kraft, if we can get one of those two guys, I'd be very happy with that. Let's go ahead and walk through the well, we've got this queue filled. We've got Joe Burrow and we've got him stacked with T. Higgins, which is great to see. Jordan Love, and then we've got Marshawn Lloyd and Jayden Reed as well. This running back room kind of built around Ramadre Stevenson. Then we waited for the rest: Javonte Williams, Austin Eckler, Blake Corum, Marshawn Lloyd, Rico Dowdle, and Jaleel McLaughlin. Wide receiver room is the strength of this build: Amon St. Brown, Chris Olave, Mike Evans, T. Higgins, Terry McLaurin, and Jayden Reed. And then for tight ends, we don't have one yet, but we've got a queue full of tight ends that we are going to be happy to add to this team. So up in just a couple picks here, Juwan Johnson goes off the board, unfortunately, but we are one pick away from getting Tucker Kraft, who would just work perfectly with what we
And I'm
currently
I'm
have
fine
going.
going Noah. I'm fine going Noah Fant too if you want, and then
Yeah, I
trying to
mean
get
that's the
Kraft.
ADP play. Yeah,
Well,
and then
look to see. Everyone's got 3 or 2 tight ends, I think, before we're up. So you
yeah,
could
so
do
we're
it,
up
or if you want
at
Kraft for the stack, that's fine too.
Oh, let's go fan here. Play the ADP game a little bit. Everybody picking between us now and our next pick already has 2 tight ends, and even if we wait until then, we're still paying up to get Tucker Kraft. Like I don't think we've already got it kind of locked down. We've got Jordan Love, we've got Marshawn Lloyd, we've got Jayden Reed. I don't think anybody else is going to be reaching for Kraft ahead of ADP. So we'll take him, half a round ahead of ADP at pick 199, but um this is where like the NFL analytics departments, when they're drafting, they look over to the other guy and they say, what are our chances of getting this guy in the next round? And then some analytics nerd says, 68%, and they decide to go with it. We don't have that, but we go with our guts, and our guts tell us that we are likely to get Tucker Kraft with our next pick.
So how do you feel about the six wide receiver build? Because I know a lot of people are pretty uncomfortable with it, even though it's like all stars at the position, but people just are so used to taking like 8 receivers at least.
Yeah. Let me pull up the board real quick and take a look while we're waiting for our next pick, just to see. Jayden Reed was the one that I wasn't totally sold on, if I'm being honest. I would have preferred some of the other guys there, but we saw a wide receiver run go. I think what I probably would have done instead of Jayden Reed is go Evan Ingram to lock in one of the I think there's a pretty big fall off in tight end after Evan Ingram. So I probably would have gone Evan Ingram or Alvin Kamara ahead of Jayden Reed. But if we went with Alvin Kamara or Evan Ingram ahead of Jayden Reed, then we're looking for late round wide receivers that we probably don't like quite as much. I just realized I'm not sharing the board here, so I'm not really helping anybody. So this is where I'm talking about it. We had Jayden Reed went here, Evan Ingram and Alvin Kamara went a little bit later. That would have been my preference, but I don't think it's a huge deal either way.
Yeah. I mean, Rashee Rice might have been a fun pick instead of Reed too. So.
Yeah, I mean, and he has just been, he's been a falling knife. But we're up in one pick here, and we got him. We got our guy. Shout out to the Football Guys analytics department for telling us we had a 78% chance of getting Tucker Kraft here, and we did it. So feeling good about that. And now with this next pick, whether it's Mike Gesicki, Greg Dulcich, Johnny Smith, Chigga, Jatavian Sanders. Obviously, I think we want Gesicki or Dulcich because they work a little bit better with the build that we have. But Jonnu, Chig, Sanders.
I love Johnny. I love Johnny. I think he's just. I think people are. I don't know why they're just letting him fall to like the 200s now. That's crazy to me. And that I
Johnny
really
was outperforming Kyle Pitts last year, and now he's on a better offense.
I mean, Odell Beckham. People like as soon as they signed Beckham, like his ADP went way down. And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense to me. But
and Jonnu, his best abilities come either in the run game or after the catch. Like he's not a guy that's winning 15 yards downfield. He's taking little dump offs and handoffs and making plays. And that's what Miami does is they open up these huge gaps for their runners. So whether they're feeding him on screens or whether they're getting him the ball in the backfield, rest assured, Jonnu is going to have some big plays this year. But unfortunately, Jingo Gus in the chat here, maybe he was listening to us because he took Jonnu a little bit ahead of ADP, so he's off the board.
That's a good pick by him. So
it was, and I've drafted a lot of Jonnu this year. Yeah,
look at all these guys that people are taking right now, like the rest of the board in the 17th, 18th round. They're just not very good.
Odell Beckham,
Bigsby, Beckham,
Tyler Boyd,
Boyd. Like,
Estime. Yeah,
oh, I mean, Irving fell. That was nice, but I think that's why I'm liking the late round tight end. Just wait and just take like 3 or 4 tight ends because they're the best. They're the best players on the board. They're actually starters, and
exactly. Yeah.
and it just pieces together and works, in my opinion.
I'm trying to think who else do the Bengals have? I mean, Gesicki's the clear tight end one for them right now, right?
I think they have like Hudson, maybe, or did he sign
Yeah,
somewhere
Tanner
else?
Hudson, Drew Sample. Oh yeah, I forgot they drafted Eric All, so they've got him as well.
Oh yeah,
But
yeah.
Gesicki's a guy who could, and again, there's no sure things in round 18, but it's very possible that Gesicki can kind of be that slot receiver that they look for. You look historically, he takes 70-80% of his snaps out of the slot. Right now, they've got T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, who can obviously play the the out wide positions, but when they go to a 3 wide receiver set, they might just lean on Gesicki ahead of Javon Baker, who everybody is, or not Javon Baker, who's the rookie they drafted this year? Why am I drawing a blank on this?
Oh, Butler, yeah,
Burton,
no,
Jermaine
Burton.
Burton,
Yeah.
not Javon Baker, Jermaine Burton. Yeah, so yeah, I mean, I'm okay taking Gesicki here. Like I said, there's no such thing as a sure thing in round 18, but the upside is there for uh for Gesicki if he ends up getting that slot role. So let's go ahead and look through this team because I like it. I was a little bit apprehensive after the first 6 or 7 rounds, but I like the way it ended up working out for us. So again, we got Joe Burrow and Jordan Love, and we were able to stack both of them with a few players from their teams as well. Ramondre Stevenson, Javonte Williams, Austin Eckler, Blake Corum, Marshawn Lloyd, Rico Dowdle, Jaleel McLaughlin in the running back room. Amondre St. Brown, Chris Olave, Mike Evans, T. Higgins, Terry McLaurin, and Jayden Reed as our wide receivers. And then we went with rounds 16, 17, and 18 for the tight ends and ended up with Noah Fant, Tucker Kraft, and Mike Gesicki. I'm going to pull up the board real quick and we can kind of take a look at something that we may have changed, something that we did or did not like. I'll give this one a B plus though. I like the way we finished. I think we finished strong with this one. James, how do you feel about it?
Uh, yeah, you just never know. I feel like we got some good values, especially at running back. Tight end, we kind of punted there. So,
Quarterback too. We can't forget. I mean, we got Joe Burrow and Jordan Love both over around below ADP. So this one
mm,
really kind of fell into our lap nicely.
yeah, I mean, I maybe McLaughlin. Maybe I would have went tight end there, and or because you're kind of betting a little bit against Williams there. So if you're going to win
Right.
tournaments, you really can't make like bets against yourself. You just have to, roll with it and go with it. But yeah,
So
I still don't.
here's where I'm willing to say there aren't sorry, there aren't a lot of teams where I want to draft multiple running backs from those teams. But
Mhm,
last year, the Denver Broncos had the highest share of targets go to their running backs than any other team. So if
right.
there is a team out there that can produce 2 viable running backs, I think it could be Denver because they do run a committee of running backs. Sean Payton, it's kind of in his DNA to check down to running backs a lot. And then on top of that, you also have Bo Nix, who isn't going to push the ball downfield. He's going to take those check downs. So we could see both Javonte Williams and Jaleel McLaughlin in a role where they're getting a 14, 15, 16% target share to each of them.
No, no, I definitely don't hate the player. Like, obviously, I love the player there, but it's more of like, did we need 7 running backs with getting those other guys at value? Where if we
Right.
would say we would have had a K
Kate
Dotton
Otten.
or Jawan Johnson to go with the other 3 tight ends, then you're gonna, I bet you're gonna feel a little bit better about this
And I
team.
almost would have been okay with 4 tight ends. Like, yeah,
Yeah,
if we had Kate Otten, Noah Fant, Tucker Kraft, and Mike Gesicki, I
yeah,
wouldn't hate that too much. So, I mean, if that's what we're nitpicking, though, if that's the thing
yeah,
that we
yeah.
dislike about this draft is our round 15 pick, I think that we did pretty good here.
Yeah, and I think you nailed it on Reed too. Like that was maybe a reach if you go back up to that one. Maybe we should have went different there. But I think it led to Jordan Love too. Like if we didn't take
Exactly.
Reed there, we probably weren't going to have Love on this team.
And then that also led us to taking Marshawn Lloyd below ADP. So,
Yeah.
and this is what I like about drafting with other people. Jayden Reed is a guy that I have not been drafting a ton of this year. I've
Mhm.
been drafting Christian Watson. I've been drafting Dontavian Wicks. I've been drafting Romeo Dubs because they're cheaper and I want in on this Packers offense, but not paying up with a round 6 price tag for Jayden Reed. So I'm glad that you kind of pushed me to draft Jayden Reed because that's a guy that up until today I had no exposure to, and now we do have some Jayden Reed. So it's always fun drafting with other people that just kind of make you reassess your priors a little bit. It's not that I dislike Jayden Reed by any means. It's just that
Mhm.
I always find myself at that point in the draft going for Lad McConkey, Evan Ingram, Xavier Worthy, Alvin Kamara. So it's nice to draft somebody different there and kind of switch up my typical builds.
So what I wanted there was Kittle, actually. Like, I
Yeah,
think if we would have got Kittle, our whole draft strategy would have changed a little bit. We wouldn't have
right.
probably would have went Love later. We probably would have went Purdy, But I that was where, and then we wouldn't have had to like scramble at tight ends quite as much. But we just missed that, and you adjust and you move on. And I think it was a fun build. It's a good exercise. This is my favorite part, is looking at it after and kind
Yeah.
of just nitpicking a little bit. I know you said it's nitpicking, but it actually helps you moving forward.
Absolutely, yeah, and
And
we do this at the end of every show, pull up the draft board and kinda
yeah,
look and discuss. It's really easy to just pat ourselves on the back and say, "Good job," but I think it's really important to kinda look at the whole board, see what you could have done differently, and then kinda change that for future drafts. We're gonna be doing this all off season. I know you're gonna be drafting hundreds of teams. I'll be drafting hundreds, you might be drafting thousands of teams. But, it's important to kinda look at the draft afterward and see what went well and what didn't.
yeah, no, it's fun. Definitely, it's just like old times, man.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
man. It's been too long. How do you think social media is gonna like this one? We'll get this one shared out on Twitter. What do you think social media have to say about this one? I think it's a
Um,
it's a strong build.
they won't like the tight ends,
They won't, of
and they'll
course.
probably say you should have took at least one more receiver.
Have you noticed that anytime you share your draft on Twitter, the first response is always, "I hate whoever you drafted in round 18." Like, nobody ever looks at the guys up top. Nobody ever looks at the stacks. It's always like, "Why did you draft Darius Slayton?" It's like, "Because it was round 18 and I needed somebody."
Yeah, no, I think it's a pretty solid build. I think there's some values in there that people like. I think it's a little bit different, so I think that's always fun. Like, you can challenge people just like to think a little different, because, like I said, a lot of these drafts, you're seeing people exactly end of the draft. You're seeing teams construct almost similar and really good teams. So
Yeah,
everyone's doing a good job drafting right now.
cool. Well, I'm happy with this one. James, before we sign off, let everyone know where they can find your content. I know you've got rankings up at Football Guys. You've also got your site where they can get your rankings as well. I don't know if you've got any other guest appearances coming up that you want to plug, but floor is yours. Let everyone know where they can find your content.
No, I'll just be drafting and sharing on Twitter, and if I find little things here and there, I'll post them, and you guys can roast me for them. I'm fine with it.
That's half the fun, is getting roasted on Twitter. As always, I'm Dave Kluge. We are here every Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. I will be back next week with Jacob Sanderson as we yet again try to win $1.5 million on Underdog Fantasy. If you are not on Underdog Fantasy already, be sure to sign up using promo code Football Guys, and you will get a 50% deposit match up to $250. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.